Hi there, this is Josh from Literary Gladiators, and today I'm here with my thoughts from my library video for May 25th, 2020. And in the United States of America, today is Memorial Day, which is a day where we remember and honor the brave men and women that fought for this country and made the ultimate sacrifice in order to protect, defend, and allow those of us to be able to fulfill the American dream. And I'm greatly thankful for everybody that has served to protect and defend not just our physical well-being, but also the morals of what the United States of America stands for. And I would like to take this time to engage in a moment of silence for those that have lost their lives protecting and defending our country. I feel that Memorial Day is a day that we need to remember why we are celebrating it. It's often viewed as being the beginning of summer. People engage in trips to the beach and barbecues, but there still needs to be that sense that we remember why Memorial Day is a federal holiday in the U.S. And during these times, where I am in New Jersey, things have been slightly lifted. Things have started to reopen again. Outdoor gatherings have gone up from, you're allowed to have up to 25 people. Indoors still 10, but it's still nice to know that that we are allowed to get together. Proceeding with caution, but still being together with one another is something that we could all be thankful for. I know that I am thankful to be around, to have that ability to be around people. And the numbers are continuing to remain steady or go down, which I feel is a positive during these times. I think that the most important thing is that we need to stay together as a general population. We may not agree on the way that things are going and the way that things could be done, but we need to support one another during these challenging times and acknowledge that we care and show compassion for one another and be able to think of the well-being of ourselves and of our loved ones, but also keep in mind the other people, their well-being, and what they are doing in order to help their loved ones. So that's where I stand on that, and I'm hoping that June shows even more positive results. As we speak, the number of new cases are generally in the 4 figures, but they have been seeing drops into the 3 figures, and deaths are primarily in the low 3 figures and are also seeing dips into the 2 figures. And then for the grace period, I am hoping that the doctors and the scientists take advantage and come up with solutions. As many solutions as possible. Don't even have to fight over which one is going to do the best job. You can have 10 winners if you really want. This is not a reality show competition to see who can get the best cure. If 20 people enter and 20 people have great solutions, then all of them are winners, and all of them should be options for people in order to address their issues regarding the current circumstance. And they should be, as long as they're safe, they should be approved. And we can contain this virus in a cage and make it the servant of society, where we control the virus and not let the virus control us. I've been looking more into literary magazines as of late, and I'm quite happy that they are still continuing to print. Many of them are still continuing to print. I'm not sure about all of them, because I know that some of them have had to take a hiatus, but the literary magazine is such a crucial form of media that people frequently overlook, when in actuality it is very often a bridge or a gateway for new writers to get their works out there. I haven't subscribed to anything new as of late, but the most recent thing that I've started to do was print out works from the normal school. The normal school had to discontinue their print magazine because they were not doing well as far as picking up revenue is concerned. So everything that they publish is now online. And it's just stories that if you're looking for short stories, poems, essays, you just click on the respective area and you see all of their new works. It's from newest to oldest. And because I like physical reading, I printed out the works. And some of them it was based off of interest, and then others I did at random because I'd like to familiarize myself with everything that the written work has to offer. Most recent physical acquisition that has arrived is an anthology of short stories that I may very well begin collecting in their entirety. This is the best British short stories. This is the 2019 edition. It was edited by Nicholas Royle, and he edits the entire series. He doesn't have guest editors. He started doing this in 2011, and he puts together he puts together the short stories that he feels caught his attention the most throughout the year. Royle himself is a writer. He's written in various genres, and it seems like this collection represents various genres, because at the beginning there's a dedication to Dennis Etchison, who wrote horror fiction for the most part. And horror is constantly being overlooked during these days, when it's still a very prominent genre, one that deserves a little bit more attention. I know that there's people that are turned off just by the nature, but Horror is one of my favorite speculative genres, and it's the one that I've written many of my works in, primarily short stories, but many of the covers look just like this as well. And I would be interested to see what British literary magazines have to offer, because Britain is pretty prominent as far as publishing is concerned, and as far as Booktube is concerned as well. At the moment, I'm currently on the home stretch for judging the quarterfinals of the Booktube Prize. I'm doing my very best to keep up. I'm certain that I'm going to have my ballot in. It may be cutting it close. It may be hours before the deadline, like the octafinals. I don't like doing it this way, but I'm getting pretty much full-time hours at my job, and a lot going on as far as balancing that and the general mechanics of the channel and other basic priorities are concerned. But I've really challenged myself, but I think I'm really persevering as far as reading more is concerned. And right after I finish judging for the quarterfinals, I'm going to be getting ready for season 12 of Literary Gladiators and reading the material for that. The guest contributor series is something that I'm going to be exploring a little bit more as well. And you should be expecting an official video that will be bringing attention to the upcoming guest contributor series. I'm really tempted to go about doing a guest contributor video every Wednesday night. I thought about every other. I thought about 3 per month. But aside from the holiday weeks, because we usually don't release as much on Christmas week, and then for the end of the year, we do our best books that we've read during the year. But aside from those, I'm really thinking about releasing guest contributor videos every Wednesday. I just want to make sure that we have a good group of guest contributors lined up. I'm going to start inviting them, and I'm really looking forward to bringing it back. I really enjoyed doing it the first time around, and hopefully the resurrection is bigger and better. And I thought I would finish off this video by doing a little bit of a grab and gab tag. I randomly grabbed one book from my book collection. The original concept was created by Sean, the Book Maniac, and the book that I randomly grabbed from my collection is The Best American Sports Writing of 2018. This was guest edited by Jeff Pearlman, and the series editor is Glenn Stout. If you know me well enough, my favorite sport among all of them is American football. I'm a huge enthusiast for the NFL, and the New York Giants are my favorite team. And one thing that really stuck out to me was a particular article called "Manning Adds Some Meaning to a Final Game Without Much," which was written by Sally Jenkins and originally published in the Washington Post. And this refers to the 2017 season, which for the Giants was an absolute disaster. The Giants have been disastrous for the last 3 seasons, but 2017 was especially a train wreck because you had Ben McAdoo as the coach. Ben McAdoo was... I personally felt that he was a very... The decision was a bit sketchy because Tom Coughlin had just finished a 12-year tenure with the team, and it felt like it was time that they were going to need to move on. But they were impressed enough with Ben McAdoo as an offensive coordinator, and they didn't want him to go to another team, in particular the Eagles, who were also hiring. So they elevated him to head coach. He had a great first season in 2016. They went 11-5. They made the playoffs, even if they lost in the wild card. But in 2017, it just fell apart. Ben McAdoo lost control of the team. He became very snarky and just suddenly authoritarian. Then the deal breaker was when he benched Eli Manning, who had the longest active streak for most starts, in favor of long-term backup Geno Smith. If they played Davis Webb, who was their rookie quarterback, would have been one thing, just to see how well he would do. But Geno Smith has proven to be mediocre. Geno Smith at least was able to keep them in contention throughout the game, but they lost. Ben McAdoo was fired. Their general manager, Jerry Reese, who ignored a lot, in particular the offensive line situation, was fired. And by that time, Steve Spagnuolo had taken over, and it was just a lost cause. But in this article, they talk about Eli Manning and his approach to the final game of the season against the Washington Redskins, and how they were able to play a solid game and defeat them, even though they really were not playing for much. And it's the same thing with how Eli Manning's career concluded in 2019. He played the first 2 games. He was benched in favor of Daniel Jones because Daniel Jones, in order for Pat Shurmur to be able to keep his job, he had to prove that he would be able to give them a path to the future. And Daniel Jones provided them with that. They had to at least see how well he was, how good of a player he was, because they drafted him 6th, which I personally think it was a good choice, because they had no idea if the Bengals or Dolphins had their eye on him. The Redskins more than likely had their eye on Dwayne Haskins, but Daniel Jones had a very good rookie season. Aside from turning the ball over, which is something that he can work on, and now he has Jason Garrett to help him out. He made some major plays that kept them in the game in a way that Eli Manning probably would have not been able to do. I think that the Buccaneers game that they won by the skin of their teeth, I think that if Eli Manning was the starter, they would have probably lost that game. I think that having Daniel Jones as the starter for that game really made a difference. But back to Eli Manning. When Daniel Jones got injured, Eli Manning came back. And the game that they beat, the game in which they beat the Dolphins, by that time, their season was meaningless. But it was his last home game. It was the game that they believed would be his last home game. He had a solid defeat against the Dolphins, and they ended up winning 4 games. They went 4-12, but it just felt good to see that Eli Manning still had it in him to pull out a victory. And I think that he pretty much, I think that this was the way that he would, this was going to be the best way that he'd be able to retire, because he probably would not be able to get another opportunity to start on another team. It's a shame, but Daniel Jones is, at this point, the future of the New York Giants. Eli Manning has said that he could not imagine being on another team besides the Giants. And as far as legendary status is concerned, Eli Manning may not be the greatest quarterback of all time, and he may not be the greatest quarterback of this generation, but I can say that Eli Manning is completely our quarterback. Tom Brady he's probably going to be finishing his career with the Buccaneers. Phillip Rivers finishing his career with the Colts. Even Peyton Manning, he was on the Colts, and there's an interesting argument that could be made. I think Tom Brady's probably going to go down as the greatest quarterback of all time because of his Super Bowl rings. But with Peyton Manning, he made his mark with the Colts, but it was with the Broncos that he was able to finish off. And in many cases, a lot of aside from people like Eli Manning's in a class with Dan Marino, who was always with the Dolphins, Troy Aikman, who was always with the Cowboys. But then you have people like, you have even Brett Favre, who he could have been the great legend for the Packers, and all he needed to do was retire, but he decided he was going to come back, and he did okay, but it's one of those things that it all comes down to what how you want to complete your package. But it's always great to read empowering. It's always great to read things about Eli Manning, because Eli Manning is just, I always felt that he was a class act. There were areas where people could argue that he's not an all-time great, but for me as a Giants fan, he is an all-time great. And I think that being able to bring 2 Super Bowl victories to a team is a strong enough argument to solidify Eli Manning's place in football history. I'm going to be wrapping this up here, and I will have to say that there will Thoughts from My Library is going to be taking a little bit of a break because I have a lot going on in the weeks to come between the Booktube prize and getting ready for filming for the 12th season of Literary Gladiators. There's going to be a lot of reading to do, and I also have videos to put together. I'm going to be editing for season 11. I have a foodie book tag coming up, and so I feel that I think it'd be best to take a break from the consistent Monday night videos, but I would like to resume this at some point in time because it's always been a great opportunity to engage and interact with you, the viewers, and I hope that everybody is doing well and staying both physically and mentally healthy during these times. And I'm very optimistic that they're going to get better. I think that within the upcoming weeks, we're going to see more forward progress. It may not be fast forward progress, but it is going to be forward progress. And we just have to keep thinking positive and just practicing common sense. Thank you for tuning in to this Thoughts from My Library video. I hope you check out some more videos from our channel. And for now, and as always, I encourage you to keep reading.